Hello everyone and welcome to the Daily Signal's Top 10. I'm Jenny Malsabano and here with me is my Daily Signal contributor, Jarrett Stutman. Now we're changing it up a little bit today because yesterday President Trump had quite a presser before he left for the G7 summit in Canada. So we're going to break down the top 10 moments from that presser. But first, the President, First Lady, Vice President, and most of the cabinet attended a FEMA briefing the other day, and the conspiracy theories are raging right now. Watch this. What does the water bottle mean?
We just unveiled a new strategic plan, and it's not just a plan for FEMA, it's a plan for the whole community. It's a plan that I'd like to unify the federal government.
Okay, Jared, this has kind of exploded on Twitter. I thought it was hilarious. What do you think that's all about?
It does seem to be that they're giving each other some kind of message or something here. The timing is so perfect. I mean, one puts the water bottle down, then the vice president puts the water bottle down. It almost seems like they're passing each other messages. Like when you're in class in high school and you're passing the notes, it kind of seems like something like that. I mean, it's possible for a meeting like this that they do have something they want to say in response to what's happening in the meeting. But I don't know. What do you think, Jenny?
I don't know either. I did think the timing was hilarious. There was no second thought, just kind of robotic. What do you all think? Let us know if you can crack the code. But first up, so there's a feud brewing with the G7. President Trump saying we might terminate NAFTA. Watch this.
We're going to deal with the unfair trade practices. If you look at what Canada, Mexico, the European Union, all of them have been doing to us for many, many decades, we have to change it, and they understand it's going to happen. What are you going to do if they form an agreement without you? We are going to do very well. Now, if we're unable to make a deal, we'll terminate NAFTA. We'll have a better deal. If we are unable to make a deal, we will be better off. Right now, we are not going to live with the deals the way they are. European Union treats us very unfairly. Canada, very unfairly. Mexico very unfairly. With that being said, I think we'll probably very easily make a deal.
So he has had a great bromance with Macron. It takes a lot to make the Canadians upset, but he's upset both of them. He's gotten into a Twitter spat with both. Does he have a point?
Well, I think, look, this was part of his campaign. I mean, he wanted to renegotiate NAFTA. He wanted to have a better deal for Americans, a fairer deal. Maybe this is just the first step in what will lead to what he considers to be a better deal for the United States. I think that's fair. Now, we'll have to see what comes out of this. I mean, certainly no deal in regards to NAFTA would be, I think, a bad thing for the United States, would be a bad thing for these other countries, but they know that too. Right. I mean, doing business with the United States, I mean, that's the best deal you can have, is doing business with the United States. So that Trump understands, he knows this, he knows that he's arguing from a position of strength. Maybe he can get something good for the American people and for the people of other countries as well.
So we're just going to have to see what the outcome is with this, and then we'll be able to judge. Next up, the Inspector General's report is going to be released on President Trump's birthday next week. Watch this.
Report going to be your birthday present? Well, it seems that it's coming out on my birthday. Maybe that's appropriate. Let's see, it is. Look, he's a very dishonest man. I've been saying it for a long time. I think I did our country a great fire, a really great favor when I fired him, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what the report says, but I guess it just got announced it's coming out on June 14th, so that'll be maybe a nice birthday present. Who knows?
Okay, maybe a nice birthday present, maybe not. What do you think we're going to see when this is released?
Well, it'll definitely be very interesting. I don't think there's any doubt that whatever comes out of this thing is going to be big news. I mean, whether or not it implicates Comey as part of this kind of plot, and whether it implicates the Department of Justice of doing things improperly, whether it implicates President Trump in some way. I don't think we quite know the answers to this yet, and certainly there's going to be a lot of anticipation for this report. And a lot of people are going to be right, a lot of people are going to be wrong, and I think there are going to be some surprises too.
Yeah, maybe we'll finally get some real answers, so that'll be something to watch next week. Now, next up, the president is living in an era, as he calls, of fake news, and he addressed this. He mentioned you can't leak classified information. Watch this.
I think you have a double edge. Reporters can't leak. You cannot leak classified information. At the same time, we need freedom of the press. But you cannot leak, like Hillary Clinton did, like Comey did. You cannot leak classified information. If you look at the young sailor, Saucier, I mean, he went to jail over not classified a much lower level. And it's very unfair that he goes to jail and that Comey's allowed to do it all over.
So as a whole, I really thought this presser was great because it's kind of Trump at his best, talking directly to the press. I thought he made some great points here. You can't leak, but he is acknowledging we do need freedom of the press because that's how we keep the government in check. Of
course. I mean, there's a little dig there at Comey, who is suspected of giving information to CNN and other sources and things like that to make Trump look bad. But he is making a very strong statement here. I mean, the press does have a role to find the truth and find the facts, but we do have classified information that a lot of times protects the lives of Americans in the United States and around the world, the people that we work with. And it is up to the press to be looking for the truth, but also acting responsibly. And I think that's something that the president said. I think people are going to read this as an attack on free press, but really this is just saying we need to defend the secrets of the United States, which are kept sometimes very legitimately.
Yeah, I was really glad to see him come out and say, absolutely, we need freedom of the press. It's good that he said that, put it on the record. So next up, this hasn't gotten a whole lot of attention yet, but I really think it's going to pick up traction. He kind of mentioned offhandedly that he is willing to work with NFL players who protest him in the locker room. Watch this.
Particular, but in sports leagues, they're not proud enough to stand for our national anthem. I don't like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say to them, instead of talk, it's all talk, talk, talk. We have a great country. You should stand for our national anthem. You shouldn't go in a locker room when our national anthem is played. I am going to ask all of those people to recommend to me, because that's what they're protesting, people that they think were unfairly treated by the justice system. And I understand that. And I'm going to ask them to recommend to me people that were unfairly treated, friends of theirs or people that they know about. And I'm going to take a look at those applications. And if I find, and my committee finds that they're unfairly treated, then we will pardon them or at least let them out. You know, I don't have to do that.
To me, this is an incredibly powerful statement because now he's saying, all right, if you're going to talk the talk, let's walk the walk. Let's have a conversation and build bridges. I mean, that's what we need in a leader like the president. And to me, it said a lot that he's throwing that out there. Now, will anybody take him up on this?
Well, I actually hope so. I think that's been one of the big problems with the general protests of the anthem is that they're really open-ended concerns. It's just an attack on, well, America's been, racist and all these terrible things. Well, what are those concerns that they want to be addressed? I mean, if you have a movement that you're building towards something, they say, oh, we're not protesting the anthem, we want something bigger. Trump's giving them a way to do that and say, well, you can stop the protests if maybe I solve some of these issues that you're talking about. I think this is a big way for Trump to say, if this really is a single-minded, devoted protest of something that is an injustice, I can help you find a way to deal with that while we can still celebrate the American flag, the military, and all the things that stands for. I think that's a good thing.
There is, and there's an opportunity to make a real difference. Let's keep an eye on that. Next up, President Trump mentioned this morning that perhaps Russia should become a part of the G7 again. He wants them to be back at the negotiating table. Watch this.
Hey, baby, you can call it anything you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call it. It used to be the G8 because Russia was in it, and now Russia's not in it. Now, I love our country. I have been Russia's worst nightmare. If Hillary got in, I think Putin is probably going, man, I wish Hillary won, because you see what I do. But with that being said, Russia should be in this meeting. Why are we having a meeting without Russia being in the meeting? And I would recommend, and it's up to them, but Russia should be in the meeting. It should be a part of it. You know, whether you like it or not, and it may not be politically correct, but we have a world to run. And in the G7, which used to be the G8, they threw Russia out. They should let Russia come back in, because we should have Russia at the negotiating table.
So certainly a very lively conversation right there. He called himself Russia's worst nightmare. A lot of people have come out and their hot takes are that Russia should not be back at the G7, G8. What do you think?
Well, I did think this was very interesting. Of course, Trump really has been harder on Russia than a lot of people gave him credit for. Of course, our role in Syria was something that definitely angered Putin, definitely angered Russia, and stood for American interests, not Russian interests. And I think with Trump, I think people are blowing this up beyond the proportion that it's justified. He's saying, let the Russians back in. Maybe he's not stipulating what conditions that would be allowed for Russia to come back in. And perhaps this is hopefulness that Russia will start behaving like a normal international actor. So I think some people are, I think, overreacting a little bit. At the same time, we do have to recognize Russia is an international problem. I mean, they have acted inappropriately on the international stage, and there are certainly cases where we exclude them from larger negotiations because of their behavior. But at the same time, they're a huge international power. We have to recognize that.
It's definitely an important conversation with lots of great points on both sides. My hope is that this does not overshadow potentially great trade deals that are made, and on that note. So we'll see. Next up, so President Trump granted clemency to Alice Johnson thanks to an intervention from Kim Kardashian.
I would get more thrill out of pardoning people that nobody knows, like Alice yesterday. I thought Kim Kardashian was great because she brought Alice to my attention. Alice was so great, and the way she left that jail and the tears and the love that she has with her family, I mean, to me, that was better than any celebrity that I can pardon.
So I thought he made some great points here. And I also liked Kim Kardashian went on CNN because she's faced some blowback for working with the president. And she said, look, we got it done. And I think that's all she needs to say on this. I mean, this woman is free. She's back with her family. And it's created a much larger conversation that I know you have some thoughts on.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little on last week's show. I mean, it's great to see President Trump go in and pardon somebody who's just a regular person, not a celebrity, not somebody who already has a huge megaphone. He's found somebody who, maybe has turned her life around and maybe has changed it quite a bit. And I think to a certain extent that is part of the pardoning power. I mean, Alexander Hamilton, the Federalist Papers, talked about the pardoning powers being an important thing to deal with the justice system that maybe sometimes acts too rigorously. This is a case where the president can step in and actually do something. So I think this is a good moment. I hope President Trump does more of this kind of stuff.
And speaking of more, he is next up considering more pardons, including Muhammad Ali, who passed away recently. So we'll have to see what happens on that. But watch this first.
There will be more pardons. I thought Alice yesterday was beautiful. I thought Jack Johnson, which was recommended by Sylvester Stallone and some great boxers. I thought Jack Johnson was a great one. I'm thinking about somebody that you all know very well, and he went through a lot, and he wasn't very popular then. And he wasn't very popular then. No, I'm not thinking about O.J. But he's not, only you could say O.J. But he was not very popular then. His memory is very popular now. I'm thinking about Muhammad Ali. I'm thinking about that very seriously. And some others, and some folks that have sentences that aren't fair. But I am thinking about Muhammad Ali.
What will it take for you to fire?
In fact, we're doing right now recommendations on, frankly, we're doing recommendations on Muhammad Ali.
So not O.J., as we saw, but possibly Muhammad Ali. And I think there's a good balance that could be struck here between kind of normal, everyday people, but also these kind of legendary figures who history, has not been kind to, and they weren't treated well during their lifetime, but who had great contributions to our country.
Absolutely. I very much like the Jack Johnson pardoning. I think that was an interesting thing because a lot of people forget who Jack Johnson is, this legendary boxer. Trump went in and pardoned him at the behest of some celebrities who pushed him to do this, and I think it does send a good message that we go back and say, some of these people were treated unfairly maybe in their time. Maybe they were treated fairly, but, we've come to a different understanding now in modern America, and I do think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it can definitely build a lot of great bridges. But pardoning is not over. Number 3, President Trump addressed his right to pardon himself. Watch this.
No, I'm not above the law. I never want anybody to be above the law. But the pardons are a very positive thing for a president. I think you see the way I'm using them. And yes, I do have an absolute right to pardon myself, but I'll never have to do it because I didn't do anything wrong. And everybody knows it. There's been no collusion. There's been no obstruction. It's all a made-up fantasy. It's a witch hunt. No collusion, no obstruction, no nothing. Now, the Democrats have had massive collusion, massive obstruction, and they should be investigated. We'll see what's happening. Yeah.
Okay, so at first when all of this talk about the president pardoning himself came up, I thought this is a major self-inflicted wound. But I think he's handling it the right way. I mean, that was pretty entertaining, but true. He's saying, I can do it. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but I won't because I didn't do anything wrong. Look at what the Democrats have done.
honestly, right now the point is pretty moot. There's nothing to be pardoned at the moment, and it has created, of course, people's minds explode and think the president pardoning himself. I mean, there is some justification. I mean, the long, testing of the Constitution, we've never had a situation where a president has gone and pardoned himself. At the same time, if the president has done something wrong, the power to impeach is fairly absolute for Congress. If they think that the president has done something wrong, they can impeach the president. So this is not saying that Trump can do whatever he wants without any kind of boundaries. Congress does have those boundaries if they so choose. So I think there's been a little bit of overreaction. I think we're used to seeing the overreaction. I think this is one of those cases.
You should write a piece on that. It's very insightful. Number 2, so Melania Trump is back in the public eye, and President Trump alluded to more of what happened and why she can't travel with him to the G7 summit.
First Lady is great, right there. She has to, and she wanted to go. Can't fly for 1 month. The doctors say she had a big operation. That was a close to a 4-hour operation, and she's doing great. I mean, right there. And you know what? She is a great First Lady.
Right there, he said. He pointed that out twice. So he kind of gave some more insight into her procedure and what happened. I mean, we knew it was, the surgery was serious, even if the condition was benign. And a lot of people in the media kind of made a huge deal about her being away and whatnot. But now she's back. Will this calm down?
I mean, I don't think it's going to calm down, Jenny. I think, we've seen such hysteria around this, and there were so many crazy theories. I think irresponsible behavior by some of the press trying to concoct ideas about, maybe she was getting beaten by President Trump, things, all these ridiculous stories. And I think this kind of shows she had a serious operation. She's not the President of the United States. She's First Lady. And I thought actually you had a very good piece about this, Jenny, in talking about the media's complete overreaction to Melania Trump. She seems to be doing fine. She's had a serious surgery, and she's up and at him again. So I think that's a good thing. And of course, the media, they just won't calm down. There's always something.
I know, and I do think this is going to keep continuing because he just maybe inadvertently released more details. So I've already seen on Twitter people saying, well, my mother had a kidney procedure. It didn't take 3 hours. So that's just going to get beaten to death, unfortunately, I predict. But we'll have to wait and see. Lastly, President Trump is preparing for a major North Korean summit. In fact, he's leaving the G7 summit early to attend this, and he says he's been preparing all of his life. Watch this.
Go ahead.
Were you serious about really not needing to prepare for the G summit?
No, I didn't say that. I said I've been preparing all my life. I always believe in preparation, but I've been preparing all my life. These 1-week preparations, they don't work. Just ask Hillary what happened to her in the debates. So I've been preparing for this all my life. And frankly, it's really just the fake news, because if you run, Peter, just a little bit longer the clip, you would see I've really been preparing all my life. I said that, but the news doesn't pick that up because it's fake news.
Well, so that was incredible. I think we can both agree. And a lot of people have said he has a point. I mean, the skill set that he's brought to the presidency as a master negotiator and a deal maker really has put him in an interesting position to do a lot of good if this goes down the right way.
Absolutely. I mean, the problem of North Korea has vexed presidents going back to, almost before I was born. And so I think that if President Trump can actually find a way to deal with North Korea and make them less of an international threat in our lifetimes, I think that would be a monumental achievement. I think that would be something that he can crown in his presidency, to say, this is a success, this is an amazing success for generations of people in South Korea, in the United States, and around the world. So, I think this is a really, really big deal, and hopefully Trump can actually bring his negotiating powers. I mean, he's become president because people thought he's a good deal maker and things like this. So I think it's a really important thing. Hopefully, we get everything we need out of this, and hopefully it goes well, and I think we just got to keep our fingers crossed that happens.
It's not just a bipartisan issue. It's not even just an American issue. This is a global issue that many of previous administrations have not been able to tackle with the right outcome. So I think all Americans should unite, wish him the best, and hopefully we get a positive outcome from this. What a presser. I mean, that was a lot happened. We got a lot of answers. And we want to ask you, did you like this format that we used this week? Please let us know in the comments. And thank you all for joining us this week. We'll see you back here next week, the same time, same place. Have a wonderful weekend.